Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports for today's live stream. And as you all know, we are here to talk about the mid-season of IPL because there's a lot that's been happening in the IPL. On one end of the spectrum, one team is just running away, possible to create an IPL record, and on the other end of the spectrum, you can see a few teams really fighting it out for the number four, number three positions. You can say this IPL hasn't been a competition where you'll see all the teams fighting it around, but still, the competition is still alive. We are in the mid-season of the IPL, and there's still a lot to talk about. I've definitely going to be talking. We have got Jaren joining us as well in a few minutes' time. Yeah, Jaren has joined us. And before we get into today's video, do not forget to check out our course on Mad About Sports and Cricket Analytics. If you want to make a dream career in cricket analytics and strive harder working for your favorite IPL team or your favorite sporting franchise, this is your opportunity. Check it out. Mad About Sports offering you all the course. Fill the Google form and our team will get in touch with you. I have Jaren once again with me. As you all know, Jaren is a cricket analyst. He's working with multiple companies and teams. He has been a catalyst in many teams' success across local leagues in India. And he's joined us to talk about his experience and his viewpoint on the IPL. Welcome, Jaren, on the show. Pleasure having you once again.
Thank you, Abel. Great to be back again. I think it's been a very exciting season as well, and some real surprises as well, where teams are performing that you probably do not expect right at the start that some of these teams are going to do well, and then obviously you've got some of the very normal and similar patterns, just like the few last 17 years repeating themselves again.
I, I know who you meant there, but either ways, we will get straight into today's video. We have a game which starts in 1 hour time. It's between GT and DC. I think we'll start off by talking about them. Or shall we talk about the game last night? Then we'll come to this. I think we'll talk about last night. I think we'll talk about last night's game before we go to tonight's game. So that's covering four teams almost. So LSG versus CSK was the game which happened last night. And talking about LSG, in front of our own eyes, they're slowly creeping into the top four. To be very honest, they are like the ones who do not make a lot of noise, but they still make it to the top four almost consistently. Last two seasons, they made it consistent in the top four. Once again, they made it to the top. They are in the top four at this point, and they've defeated CSK at Chepauk, which is a daunting task for almost all the teams in IPL. Even if you're the best team in IPL, let it be even Mumbai Indians, they've always found it difficult to defeat CSK in Chepauk and to chase a record-breaking total of 210. You reckon this is possibly an LSD team who's playing a lot more fearless than it has ever been playing?
I think it's a very LSG trait, right? Last two seasons, LSG just a bit creeped into the top four and not really making any noise. They've done this again. Very much they've done this again.
Yeah.
They've done this pretty much again this season. And I think the thing about this team is, that they find ways, right? And I mean, just looking at yesterday, you'd have to say that, again, they found Marcus Stoinis to perform really well all of a sudden, it was a great move to bring him at number three. I think it's been something that he's done really well at number three in BBL as well before. So it's not a position that he's not known to do well at. It's a position that he's done really well in the past. And I think finally LSG has given him that position and he's justified it as well, which is a great sign for them. Now, what really helped them, obviously, you can argue there was a due factor there, but of course, at the end of the day, that was still an improbable target. I think the fourth highest target that's been chased in the last 6 overs. So it was a very difficult task, and he was alone for the most part of it, right? There was contribution by Nicholas Puran. There was a lower end cameo played by Deepak Hooda as well. But at the end of the day, it was the brilliance really of Marcus Stoinis that got them through.
Absolutely. When you spoke about it, but we'll have to talk about a few things, especially we'll talk about CSK to start off with. Yeah, the captaincy change is quite seen, right? And some of the tactical blunders I'd like to mention this year CSK has been taking. And few of them have been very evident on the paper. Last night, I think we'll talk about the first tactical mistake, which was made by Ruturaj Gaikwad, was promoting Jadeja up the order. Now, Stephen Fleming came on to say that we wanted the pitch to turn a lot more. Even that's so unlike CSK to come and make an excuse of that sort that we would have loved the pitch to turn a lot more. We're playing at our home and etc. etc. Come on. In that case, RCB should be making excuse every game that the boundary should be a lot bigger. RCB is not even in the list because of this reason. Look at the there's only 9 teams in the list. RCB is way outside this perimeter. But jokes aside, Stephen Fleming to make that comment and tactical mistakes which they did not really own up to. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I think you are right. I mean, you already mentioned Jadeja coming up the order, not Moin Ali. I think the reason why it worked for CSK in the last game against LSG was the fact that CSK was struggling at a point in time, and it made sense to bring in someone who you probably helped to extend the batting lineup. But you bought in Jadeja yesterday to take down the spinners, and the player who did that for you in the last game against LSG, and the reason why he played in yesterday's game was because he took down the spinners for you, right? He took down both Bishnoi and on the other hand, he took down Krunal Pandey. I think he took down Krunal Pandey as well. He took both of them down, and that was the reason why you had to promote him up the order again. Where I just felt for the first time in some time that CSK was a bit more rigid. Maybe they expected that we'll go with the same formula that we did last time. I think they should have gone up with Moin Ali. And again, right, I also felt like with Daryl Mitchell being dropped, not being dropped, and Rachin Ravindra being dropped was also absurd, because with the impact player rule, you don't really need Daryl Mitchell's bowling, and that I understand that you're looking at Moin Ali and Rachin Ravindra and thinking that okay, maybe Rachin Ravindra and Moin Ali as like replacements for each other, but it's not like any of those three are gonna ball. Probably Moin Ali is going to ball, but Rachin would not have balled, and neither would have Daryl Mitchell. So you didn't really need his bowling. And if you look at the batting talent at this point in time, obviously you can argue that both of them are equally good, but Rachin Ravindra is in a better vein of form, and at least he's done better for you in the amount of chance that he's got. And so I think he would have been a better placed player at number three. And it's not like you have enough left-handers. I think with the LSG team, one more left-hander would not really have hurt you. So that was very surprising as well. And I think the final one obviously was giving Cheher lesser overs than Tushar Deshpande.
Yeah, what did you make of that? Because that was another tactical blunder. When he bowled 2 overs, 11 runs, 1 wicket, and to go away from your best bowler and to give in a Shardul Thakur or Tushar Deshpande did not really make sense, did it?
Yeah, it absolutely did not. I mean, I understand that Cheher has struggled in the middle overs and the death overs phase a lot recently. He's not really stood up to that task that was given to him by CSK. But I would still argue, and I would still say that he's a better death bowler than Tushar Deshpande. I
We're not
think
even
to
talking about death over here, right? Why didn't you
yeah,
give him? Why didn't you ball him out? Is my question. You could have balled him out
yeah,
in the first
absolutely.
4 overs.
I think middle overs it still makes sense to me to some extent, even where you wanted to try out a Moin Ali and Ravindra Jadeja squeeze the batters, and I think it worked. Right. I think even though there were a few balls that went, I think with Deja Padikkal especially, it did work a little bit. But even then, you just would say that it's better to have balled out a Tushar Desh, I mean a Deepak Chahar, because it gives you. I think by the time it's 10th or 11th over, if you can ball out Deepak Chahar, then that means you can extend Mustafizur, the entry point of Mustafizur, and the entry point of Matisha Patirana, and that just makes it even more difficult for opposition batters. So that's where I just feel like those couple of overs, right, where Tushar Deshpande came, gave in 30 odd runs, that could have been at least brought down to 25-20, and that would have saved them the match.
I agree. I agree. Totally agree with you on this particular aspect. Now, LSG, with CSK will struggle. I feel a little bit if they're going to make these mistakes going into the back end. But if CSK is also a team who knows who has been in this kind of situations, they can really pull through. And once they are in the playoff scenario, it's on that particular day, right? CSK has done it time and time again. They know how to play in playoffs, and they'll just have to sneak into the playoffs. It's just a game difference. They have still 6 more games to be played, and they'll still feel that other teams can also mess up. If you look, KKR and SRH, if you look at the top 3 teams, they've really been kind of cruising, especially RR in that list, right? They've been really cruising. They've not really had a lot of trouble there. KKR on the other end have really looked good. I know last game was slightly dubious in terms of a lot of controversies being happening, but still, let's be honest, they've still been cruising in a better way in terms of their batting power prowess really coming good. Bowling slightly more in question. SRH also bowling in question. If you look at the top 3 teams, except for an RR, or maybe I would say to an extent LSG also. Maybe LSG is their borderline because they're not consistent in both. All the teams have major weaknesses if you look. KKR, SRH, LSG, even CSK for that matter. All the teams have major weaknesses. How do you see the IPL's back end now going ahead? Now, RR is, I think, almost there. I think RR are getting the top 2 spot. I don't think the team cannot qualify from here on. 6 games, they need what, one win to qualify and maintain top two. I think they'll have to win 2 wins, and they're 100% qualifying with 18. I don't think there has ever been a situation where 18 pointer has ended up in third place. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think out of the teams that you mentioned, Abel, I mean, I'm talking about the the tables middle, traffic jam that sort of happened there. I think with KKR, you probably would say that if Mitchell Stark comes into form, then the team all of a sudden looks like a solid team. I think that's been their biggest issue is that Mitchell Stark has been leaking runs a lot, and I think if he gets into form, then you all of a sudden feel like with Harshit Rana and I think who's the other fast bowler? I don't remember his name off.
Piper.
Beba Barora, yeah. I think they have a decent pace attack, and Andre Russell can obviously pitch in. I think that is, and then obviously the middle order, right? I think Shreyas Iyer, that whole struggle has kind of
Yeah,
caused an issue because you feel like KKR are getting brisk starts, but then the
yeah,
middle order comes in and slows things down. So I think Venkatesh Iyer, Shreyas Iyer, the Iyers really need to pick up pace. Then I think probably SRH is one team that I still believe they might, it's not a sustainable model that they're following because if their batting order fails, which it just looks unlikely, but there will be that one game. And if their batting order fails, I don't really think their bowling has that much of, really has that kind of steam because their bowling has been the second most expensive in the IPL. I know people are not going to talk about it because they've done well with their batting, but how long will the batting survive or how long can they win an IPL on just the batting is something that remains to be seen, right? I think with CSK and LSG as well, a few things need to be fixed. A few players not in form. CSK is also again, I think their top orders really struggled. If they can get a good partnership going, right? I think if Rutraj and now they're looking at Ajinkya Rahane, if they can get a better start, I think it'll look a lot better. And then obviously, I think the middle order as well. The low middle order has been doing really well. If you look at Dhoni or if you look at Shivam Dubey, all these lads have been doing well. But their middle order again, I think the middle order overs have been kind of masked because of Shivam Dubey's performance.
yeah.
Aside from that, none of the batters have really performed.
I agree.
LSG again, I feel their bowling is a bit weaker, which is again being hidden by the fact that that they've done well in decent. I think they've done well in patches. That is still something that is going to continue because their bowling has really not looked that great. I think Krunal Pandya has bowled well, but then they've really not gotten a pacer who can do that job. It's
Yeah,
been in patches. So I think those are the three teams I really feel
I
will
think a lot
get to.
depends on if Mayank Yadav can come back in the back end. That's
But
going to
again,
really
even the question is going to be, can he come back with the same ferocity that he bowled before the injury?
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
that's something
That's
that
true.
always affects the fast bowlers, and he's still a young fast bowler.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally on you because, yeah, one of the major issues which these young fast bowlers will face is how do they recalibrate and come back after an injury because stress fractures or side strains are not never easy. It's always going to be harder for you to come back as a fast bowler, and it's going to really take a toll for a youngster, especially. But yeah, I think we have to talk about. You didn't mention about these three teams, but SRH. Uh, you reckon this is a season where they're setting standards for new T20 cricket to be played? I mean, we spoke about them earlier on, but what they're doing is playing absolutely fearless cricket. And Patrick Cummins, being the captain of this team, is really giving them the freedom, and they're thinking about 300s. I mean, mindset of Abhishek Sharma and Travis said was we want to get that 300 mark, and that's something crazy, right? You don't see teams thinking that way.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think baseball, I mean, step aside baseball, because Pat Cummins is really
Yeah, Pat
Pat
Cummins is
Cummins is
ball.
really, changing things around for them. And I think you'd have to also say that, that has, I think I was hearing Bhuvneshwar Kumar talk about in the interview where uh, I think it has really affected the ballers as well because they
Yeah,
also are going at a similar run rate, right? So that really needs to improve. I still believe that's also not really their fault because the batters are batting in a way that opposition teams are also forced to do it. Now, what remains to be seen, obviously, is I think this World Cup, right? It's going to be interesting to see how that goes because obviously, are people going to take inspiration from it or not remains to be seen, right? Because
I
basketball
agree.
happened on the international stage. This is still happening in the IPL, which is still, even though you can say that the stand of cricket is really huge, still
Yeah,
not there. It's not still international cricket. And obviously, the impact player is a huge, huge
yeah,
reason why this is something that happens. I still believe that I won't be surprised if teams like England or maybe West Indies can actually try and pull this off. Because especially I
Yeah,
think England and probably even Sri Lanka that comes to my mind. And I'll tell you why Sri Lanka and West Indies in particular I feel can play this brand of cricket is because that's the only way they can probably survive, do well with their batting. I think especially Sri Lanka with Nuwan Tusera and Patirana, you can and
yeah,
probably even Manadu Hasaranga if he's hopefully he's fit by then. You can say that they've got the bowling if you give them a target, and I think they can bat in that way. They've got
yeah.
batters who can bat in that way.
I have a strong feeling Sri Lanka are serious dark horses for this T20 World Cup, and
Yeah,
nobody's really talking about them. But in T20 format with that bowling attack and with batting, I think that's a different topic altogether. But we'll go on that some other day. But either ways, I think we have to talk about the game in hand, what we have today, right? I mean, it's GT taking on DC. I think we have to talk about GT in particular. Won a very close game against Punjab last time around. Sai Kishore picked up 4 wickets there. Interesting bowling spell from him. And what do you make of this GT team? Because they've been hot and cold. It's not the GT team of past 2 years where they've been completely hot or they've been a team who's been extremely consistent. It's been a very erratic GT team. You can see that green red markers next to their name. You clearly know that they don't win in consistent basis. They lose, they win. All of a sudden they win. They are on 8 points. I agree, but still not give you that conviction that okay, they are a team to really worry about in this IPL.
yeah. I think they've missed Pandya a lot, right? He provided them a lot of balance, and that middle order now. All of a sudden, I think that middle order has become really shaky, and I think part of it is also because it's become a lot more inexperienced. Because
Yeah,
whom do you have there in there? They're all youngsters playing their second or third season in the IPL, and then you've got David Miller, who suddenly is
yeah,
not a finisher anymore. You need him to play a little longer, which
I
he's not
agree.
been able to do so far. And I
Yeah.
think they've not tried Matthew Wade, or
Mm.
they did try Matthew Wade, but he did not work out either for them. So then they have only the option of playing Kane Williamson, which I don't think it makes sense because anyhow they're already playing very slow. That's another big issue, right? Big concern for this team is that they've been very cautious and they've been the polar opposite of what an SRH team has been. And I think they've also not hit 56s yet when everyone else has already crossed 66s. So that
Yeah.
really shows the kind of batting. I mean, the kind of batting as well. They've played cricket in the T20 cricket you would have seen in 2010 or post prior to 2010, which I think is really helping them as well. I think the bowling is okay, it's just fine. Again, they lack a pacer, right? They
Yeah.
really miss Mohammad Shami. I think they really rely on Rashid Khan and on Noor Ahmed, but then they
Yeah.
never make their pitch spin friendly, which is very surprising because
I
if
think
you're
if they make their pitch into a spin-friendly track, they can play a lot better because
yeah, look at what happened
Sai
in
Sudarshan
Mulanpur.
and Shubman Gill can do that. Then there is Sai Kishore who's going to be a threatening weapon in those spin-friendly conditions. Then you have a Rashid Khan, obviously. Then you have players who can play spin well, right? And you have bowlers who can ball well. Use those change-ups. Like Mohit Sharma is a example for that matter. Even Spencer Johnson can come into play. He's got a good change-up as well. So I don't know why they're not doing that. I think some teams not optimizing their home ground conditions with their strengths is the biggest issue this IPL. What I see.
Yeah, and I think when it used to be called Motera Stadium back in the day, it used to be a very spin friendly stadium, and I remember I think it used to be taken amongst the names of Chennai and all these turning tracks whenever there used to be a test match that was played over there. So it's not like it's a thing that you have
Yeah.
to manufacture or create. I think it's a very normal expected nature of that ground. I think it's changed a lot more. It's become a lot more flatter in order to maybe make the crowds look more appeased. But
Yeah.
as a team, as an IPL franchise, you have to look at your strengths. And like I mentioned, right, your strength is not to really bat quick. Your strength is to take the game deeper. You have your bowling strength is to have two phenomenal spinners. I think the best possible way is to maximize it in that direction, make it more spin friendly. And you already saw in Mulanpur how beautifully they performed, right? They
Yes.
were on top of Punjab because it was a spin friendly pitch. And they had no difficulty at all chasing the score down. It was,
I
I
agree.
think, I mean, they did have difficulty, yes, but that's because they kind of imploded towards the end where they should
Yeah.
have been a little bit more calmer. I really think some of the bowling they did get under the skin of Gujarat Titans. I think a lot of mental games that were played by Liam Livingston and all those guys got into the skins. But
Yeah.
aside from that, they were cruising at a point in time. So I just believe that's the way for them to go. And maybe that's when they will start to look a lot better, because it's not just lost for them.
Yeah, I agree. Last game, if you look at this particular track, which is going to be used, the game is going to be played in Delhi. You saw the flat track, which was used for the Delhi versus SRH game. How do you see this game from both Delhi's perspective? For Delhi, yeah, they had a hammering against. They had two hammerings back to back in this season. One is KKR, one is SRH, and both the teams are on top of the table, and they've both been playing in such a fashion. But Delhi as well, Jake Fraser, McGurk, a big positive for them. He's been playing like what Travis Head has been doing for SRH. And on the other end of the side, Rishabh Pant batting way too deep in the batting order. What did you make of that? Because if Jake Fraser McGurk is going to bat number 3, why don't you send Rishabh Pant at number 4? Why isn't Abhishek Porel being sent there?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that either, Abel, because both Abhishek Porel and Rishabh Pant have played well in each other's position, or rather, you've basically swapped them over, and you've put them in a. I think the only reason I see that happening maybe is Rishabh Pant has communicated to the Delhi management that I want to play the T20 World Cup for India, and I
Oh,
don't think I can play at middle order, so I might play as a finisher. Maybe he's trying to compete with Dinesh Karthik here.
I mean, this is
Uh,
weird, right? Do you see
yeah,
that trend? I mean, I'm just going off topic here. A lot of teams, all of a sudden, a lot of players are batting out of positions, like an audition all of a sudden in the last 1 week, where you're seeing Jadeja bat up the order, Pandya taking the first over, Ruturaj
yeah.
Gaikwad pushing himself down to 3 to say that, okay, there's a batting position available for me. Shivam Dubey coming at number 5 to say, okay, I'm here at number 5. A lot of players. I mean, I can pick up at least 4 to 5 players saying that, okay, we are all here for the auditions and please select us over for this. And Rishabh Pant, an example which you gave, this is weird for me in my personal liking because why is this happening? I mean, this is not just spoiling a team's chances, but be professional to what you're doing right now. If you perform well in your number 4 position, I still think you can get a nod ahead for India. If you're going to come at number 6, which you're not used to, you're nowhere going to be in there with a shout.
I think the only person who actually worked out for was Shivam Dubey, right? He did a phenomenal job yesterday, but then again, you have to say that's because CSK did lose, I think, what, 3 wickets by the 12th over or 13th over, and
Yeah.
then he came in. So it's not even like he's yet played that finisher's role. I mean, you probably judge him better when 60 odd is required in 30 balls.
Yeah.
But I think aside from that, I don't think India was ever looking to play Rishabh Pant in a finisher role, but you've got Rinku Singh for that, right? And then you don't really need to play. If Rishabh Pant is playing, then I think Rinku Singh will probably end up playing the finisher's role. And if
Yeah.
Rishabh Pant is not playing and Dinesh Karthik gets a nod, that's the only time when the India will feel like, maybe we don't need a Rishabh Pant. So middle order is the spot that you're going to get for sure, because that's where he's played most of his T20I, and then obviously in the IPL in the past 3 seasons he's played. So I just don't see that shift all of a sudden. And Dinesh Karthik been doing that for 3-4 seasons now. Even when he was in KKR for 2 seasons, he did it. Then he did it for RCB in the past 3 seasons. So you can't all of a sudden switch your position and hope that it works. And what surprises me is I think Delhi with a very explosive combination of Peter McCullough and Rishabh Pant in the middle order. That's what worked for them in those games, in the 2 games that they have won. So for them to change that is absurd.
I agree. I agree. I totally agree with you there, and that's why I think before we end the stream as well. So far, do you see any changes in this top 4, or do you see CSK sneaking in? Who are the surprises now? We just a straight away question for you, but I don't see that bottom half teams really making a challenge for top 4 because there are major weaknesses in all these bottom half teams. Mumbai Indians, a thought on them as well before we end. Can they challenge for top 4? Can they make it to the top 4? Because it just looks like there is a slight, separation which is going to take place where the top 4 is going to run away.
Yeah, I think if you look at all the teams at the bottom, right, you have to say that RCB now is pretty much out,
Yeah,
because you basically need 16 points. And I'm sorry, Abel, it's another year for you,
yeah,
but you need 16 points, and they're only gonna get 14. I think
yeah.
that's pretty much what. Yeah, that's what
I mean, even if
that's
they
what
get
RR already
14,
has.
right? Even if 14 is a cutoff, I think the NRR is so bad that I don't think they'll
Their
even make
RR is really bad, and that's really going to hurt them. Now, then you have Punjab. I think them as well. They need to win all their matches, so they are also pretty much out at this point in time. You just don't see a Punjab winning all their matches, making that comeback, because you don't feel like they have the team. Again, another year for them. Delhi and
If
Mumbai,
you look at
now,
8, 9, 10, it's like the Holy Trinity, right?
yeah, yeah, I agree. I think with Mumbai and Delhi, they've still got hopes, but their hopes are very thin, right? They cannot lose another match in a long time. They can only
Yeah.
lose one more match if
Big
they
game
want
for
to make
Delhi tonight. Big game for Delhi tonight, and
big. I
that
think every game is huge for them now. If Delhi loses today, they have to win rest their all their matches and hope that they win with huge NRR as well. I think they've got a worse NRR than RCB, than Punjab, than Mumbai at this point in time. So that's another huge disadvantage for them, because you have to say that they are in the lower order. They are the ones who are
yeah.
struggling the most.
I mean, if you look, GT has a worse NRR than RCB, but they're number 5, 6 in the table.
Yeah, that's what.
So
So
that's
they,
a big
as I
fact.
mean, at the point in time, if you're not in the top two able, you really need a good NRR, because I think you need to have either 10 points or a good NRR, because otherwise your chance of qualifying are really low.
Yeah, I still think the 14 will be the cutoff of for the last team, but 14 with a good NRR is what I mean. It's not
Yeah,
14 with bad NRRs. We have seen that in the previous seasons as well. 14 is usually the cutoff for the fourth team, but if you're going to have 14 and very few NRRs, there's no chance that you can really go through. And it looks like a season where 16 could be a cutoff, because if you look, all these top three teams, which is 2, 3, and 4, they've already reached 10 points already. So that's 3 wins what they require in 7 games, or 3 wins which they require in 6 games, which is quite possible, Jaren. I mean, they can get to those 3 wins in those 6 or 7 games, right? If both are SRH, KKR, and LSG, they all can do it, and they're not bad teams. So that is where I think until unless there's a serious choke from any of these teams, I don't see 14 also being a cutoff. Unfortunately for this season, as I
yeah,
mentioned once, if LSG go on a losing triumph, then we might see that, or a SRH or a KKR. It all depends on various factors, permutations, and combinations, because you have an RR who's running away. I think they're going to end up in 2022 points for sure at this point, if the way in which they've been going. Even the game they lost in the last ball because of some Rashid Khan brilliance. RCB and Punjab are totally out of the picture for me, because I don't see them coming back. DC tonight's
yeah.
game is very important. Unfortunately, this IPL is going to be a 6 team race, is what I feel. Sadly, not like any other IPL. At max 6, or it might even come down to 5.
But I think, as you're saying, right, those six teams are teams who can do it, are all teams who can do it. And at a stage in this league, they've all looked like teams who could probably even go on to
I feel
win.
like it's slightly weird in comparison to other seasons, because other seasons you at least see 9 teams in contention until the last week, or like second last week. Now we are
Yeah,
like
I
in the mid.
agree. I think
Like,
you're right
yeah,
about that. I think that's also because it's now become a 10-team league able. So
but
if a
then along
team,
the last 2 seasons in
yeah,
particular, right, when 10 teams had even come, you still saw that fight in the last between the 9 teams. One team has
yeah, but
always lost badly, but other
I'll
two teams.
agree with you on that, right? I mean, going into the matches, you probably can predict who's gonna win, who's not gonna win, especially when lower half teams are playing. It's very rare that you see, the lower half teams beating the upper half team. That's another big issue there, because even in MI, for instance, they didn't look comfortable against any of the top half teams, for
Yeah.
instance. Or I think RCB is obviously RCB in Punjab Kings, Delhi Capitals have all looked hopeless, and Delhi had that one win against CSK. But you're right about that. There's been a lot of difference between teams that are really good and teams that are really bad,
Yeah, that's
and
something which
it's
you don't
not
see about
for
IPL, sir. I mean, IPL was always
true.
about the competition of all the teams. And weirdly enough, I think that this auction which took place recently has really derailed teams more than anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. A lot of teams got their auction strategies wrong, and a lot of them are in the lower half of the table. I think MI is the one surprise after the auctions, because they had a phenomenal auction,
They didn't get their
but
auction strategy wrong. They got their team
they
strategy
got the
wrong.
trading strategy wrong.
Yeah. They got something wrong.
Yeah, I think a lot of things have gone wrong behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And we've had a chat about this, that if Mumbai can get their team to go together and play as one, they would do really well, which they haven't, and that's been the only reason, right? You mentioned Hardik Pandya taking the new ball. I think that is probably one of the reasons, because the one time they had the best performance they had was when Hardik Pandya did not take the new ball, when it was Koidze and Bumrah who took the new ball.
Yeah,
So that's just one of the aspects I think with MI. They've really gone wrong with their tactics.
I agree, and I think that's really done them really bad.
Yeah.
Before we end the stream, your predictions, your top four predictions.
I think how it's going to be very difficult label. I think any team out of the top five, I still believe maybe now it will probably be. I think LSG might just slip out and CSK might just get it. That's my personal bias as well. But I think that's how it's going to end up, right? I just, as you said, Gujarat. I think I just feel like it's not their season this time around. They didn't really get a replacement for Hardik Pandya, which really hurt them. And then Mohammad Shami going out, I think they're not going to come back from that. CSK, I still believe they've got their best version to come out yet. And I think obviously SRH, KKR, and RR have probably looked the most secure teams in this IPL.
I agree. I agree, and I think for me, I told you earlier, it's a feeling a very weird feeling. There's a SRH kind of a season for some weird reason. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
it
say
kind
it's
of
a
feels like the 2016 season, right? Where you felt like SRH played all the games, right? But they only had two players, one really good bowler and one really good batter, where David Warner and Bhuvneshwar Kumar.
If you look at SRH, they're peaking. The bowling is peaking now. Natarajan in
Hmm.
form to an extent. Bhuvneshwar Kumar, okay. Pat Cummins has been doing a decent job. Markande has done a very, very, decent job. I would say it's not done any bad. So they're peaking. And when a team peaks and Rajasthan are peaking, they're yet to peak completely. So these two teams, Rajasthan, SRH, are the teams for me to really watch out for. And I think Rajasthan are the strong favorites because they have very few holes with Yashasvi Jaiswal's 100. They look like a team which is going to be really unbeatable because they are only team what's got almost every aspect covered, right? Middle order, top order, lower middle order, bowling, spin bowling department, pace bowling department, death bowling, opening bowling. I mean, you don't see a 9.5 of 10 team in this IPL. All the teams have an issue in the top 10, except for an RR. So that's why they are rightly on top. I think it's going to be between an SRH or KKR to really decide
And
who's
I
going to
mean, you have to also remember that RR is not even playing at full strength. They've still got a few players in the on the injury bench.
Yeah, I think one of them, Nonvir Burger, is yet to.
None,
Is not.
yeah, Nandri, I think everyone else is returned. You're right. You're right.
And Sandeep Sharma just played about 5 wicket haul, so he's
Yeah.
returned in some fashion. So I think that's a crazy team. Sanju Samson is doing well. Yashasvi Jaiswal is doing well. Uh, a weird feeling, man. I have a weird feeling that this could be an RR year as well. I mean, this is RR's best opportunity to win because next year it's a mega auction. I don't think they're going to have the same team. This is
Correct.
their
I think
season to win. If they don't win it this season, I think they're going to regret it big time. And if you're an RR fan watching this, you would know that this is possibly RR's greatest team assembled in the history of IPL. There's no doubt about it. I
true.
can vouch myself. You will say 2008 you won the IPL, but that team was not supposed to win the IPL. If you look at the team
Yeah.
on the team. This is possibly the greatest RR team. Do you have any doubt about that, Jaren?
I think the team that can probably come close to this is when they had that Australian trio of Steve Smith, Faulkner,
No,
Shane
come on.
Watson.
I don't think they were even as
I
good
think
as.
they want. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Right, the closest you can probably think of a strong RR team is that. But even they were really. I think they made it to playoffs two times
I
out
think
of four
the
seasons.
closest I can think is the 2022 finalist team. It's
Oh yeah,
almost
they
same.
are there as
Almost,
well.
it's
Correct.
almost the same team. Like
Correct. Correct. I think
two
they were a
players,
better team. They were a better team.
they're a good team. Just
I think
that
the
I
one
think
I was thinking about, I think with Chris Morris, Shane Watson, Steve Smith, and Faulkner, they were not a bad team.
in
Yeah,
2015, yeah.
2015, 2016. But even they never really got into playoffs much, right? I think they got into playoffs twice in 4 years. But this team has already done it
Yeah,
twice in 3 years now.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
last season also they should have. There was their
Yeah,
own
correct.
mistakes. I think there
I
was a,
think they had a very similar start, but they lost the momentum, absolutely derailed their
I think there
season.
was one game where Sandeep Sharma bowled a no ball, which cost them the entire season. Like the Glenn Phillips was just going bonkers. Otherwise, they should have qualified last season as well. And they had a
Yeah.
horrific game against RCB where they got out of a 50 odd. That was just a what do you say? It's just an aberration kind of a game where you can say should have never gotten all of a 55. I think that's about it from us. Thank you, Jaren, for joining. It was a pleasure talking and interacting with you. So do not forget to check out our course once again, ladies and gentlemen, with Mad About Sports. As I mentioned, this could be a dream kickstart to your career in sport. You can work with your favorite IPL franchise as well. Check that out. Have a good time, all of you. See you all soon. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.